The message came through the Deep Space Communications Array at exactly 14:32, Earth Standard Time. Admiral Lisa Carter was drinking her morning coffee when the alert chimed across her desk. She had been expecting this day for months, but seeing the official seal of the Galactic Council still made her stomach tighten. "Admiral," her aide called from the doorway. "Priority message from the Council." Lisa nodded and activated the holographic display. The image that appeared showed a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and cold silver eyes. This was High Counselor Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire, the species that controlled most of the Galactic Council's decisions. "Greetings, primitive species of Earth," the alien began, its voice carrying the tone of someone speaking to a child. "The Galactic Council has decided to grant you the honor of membership in our great alliance. However, recent reports suggest your species has been expanding beyond acceptable limits." Lisa's jaw tightened. She had read those reports. Human colonies had been attacked 3 times in the last 6 months. Ships had gone missing near the border systems. And now the aliens were calling humanity the aggressive ones. "You will send representatives to answer for these violations," Vextar continued. "A small shuttle with no more than 5 individuals will be sufficient. You will arrive at the neutral station orbiting Kepler 442b in 30 Earth days. Do not be late." The message ended abruptly. Lisa stared at the empty holographic space for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Get me Captain Morrison," she told her aide, "and prepare the Vengeance for immediate departure." 2 hours later, Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Admiral's office, still wearing his workout clothes. He had been pulled from the gym aboard the U-East Vengeance, Earth's most powerful battleship. At 42 years old, Morrison was the youngest captain to ever command a ship of this size. His brown hair was still damp with sweat, and his green eyes were sharp with curiosity. "They want us to send a shuttle?" Morrison asked, reading the message transcript. "That's what they expect," Lisa replied. "A small, harmless shuttle with scared humans begging for mercy." Morrison looked up from the report. "But we're not going to do that." "No, we're not." Lisa walked to the window that looked out over the shipyard. The Vengeance floated in the distance, its dark hull gleaming under the artificial lights. The ship was over 1 kilometer long, bristling with weapons that most alien species had never seen before. "We're going to give them exactly what they asked for. Representatives from Earth. Just not the kind they're expecting," Morrison said with a grin. "Dr. Amy Brooks will be your diplomatic advisor," Lisa continued. "She knows more about alien cultures than anyone else in the fleet. Commander Ryan Walsh will be your executive officer for this mission." Morrison nodded. He had worked with both of them before. Brooks was brilliant, able to speak 12 alien languages and understand the politics of half the galaxy. Walsh was solid, dependable, and had never lost his cool in a crisis. "What are our orders, Admiral?" Morrison asked. Lisa turned back to face him. "Show them what humanity is really capable of. But Jake," she paused, "don't fire first. Let them make the first move. And if they do, then show them why Earth doesn't send shuttles to important meetings." 3 days later, the Vengeance was ready for departure. The ship's crew of 800 had been preparing for this moment for months. They knew the aliens thought humans were weak, primitive, and easy to control. They were about to learn otherwise. Doctor Amy Brooks stood on the bridge, watching the final preparations. She was 35 years old, with blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and blue eyes that missed nothing. She had spent the last 5 years studying every piece of information Earth had about the Galactic Council. She knew their politics, their fears, and their weaknesses. "Are you ready for this, Doc?" Commander Walsh asked, joining her at the observation deck. Walsh was a big man, 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and the calm confidence of someone who had seen combat. His black hair was starting to show gray at the temples, and his dark eyes were always alert. "As ready as anyone can be," Amy replied. "The question is whether they're ready for us." Captain Morrison's voice came over the ship's communication. "System, all hands prepare for hyperspace jump. We're going to make history today." The Vengeance's massive engines came to life with a deep humming sound that could be felt through the entire ship. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing their role perfectly. This was not just any ship. This was Earth's finest vessel, crewed by the best people humanity had to offer. "Jump in 10 seconds, the navigation officer announced. Morrison stood in the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. He looked calm, but Amy could see the tension in his shoulders. They were about to enter a part of space controlled by aliens, who saw humans as nothing more than useful primitives. 5 seconds. The stars outside the windows began to shift and blur. Jump. The Vengeance disappeared from Earth's solar system in a flash of light. When it reappeared, it would be in alien space, carrying a message that would change everything. The Galactic Council was expecting a small shuttle full of frightened humans. They were about to get Earth's most powerful battleship instead. The Galactic Council station hung in space like a massive metal flower, its 12 arms reaching out toward the stars. Each arm belonged to a different member species, and ships from across the galaxy docked there daily. But today was different. Today, the Council was meeting to deal with the newest member species, humanity. Admiral Kex Thule of the Zephyrian Empire stood in the station's main observation deck, watching the empty space where the human shuttle should appear. The Zephyrian was nearly 8 feet tall, with blue skin that seemed to glow under the station's lights. His 4 arms were crossed, and his silver eyes showed nothing but contempt. "Still no sign of the human vessel," reported his aide, a smaller Zephyrian with nervous energy. "They have 12 hours before they are officially late." "Let them be late," Kex Thule replied. "It will give us more reason to punish them for their recent aggression." Around the station, the fleets of various species waited. The Zephyrian ships were sleek and blue, designed for speed and precision. The Corvin vessels looked like floating fortresses, all thick armor and heavy weapons. The insect-like hive ships moved in perfect formation, their bioships pulsing with organic energy. All of them were waiting to see what kind of shuttle the humans would send. "Jump signature detected," the station's communication system announced. "Large vessel approaching from hyperspace." Kex Thule frowned. Large vessel? The humans were told to send a shuttle. The space in front of the station began to shimmer and twist. Energy patterns danced across the darkness, growing brighter and more intense. This was definitely not a normal shuttle jump signature. "Sir," the aide said, his voice rising with concern, "the energy readings are off the charts. Whatever's coming through, it's huge." The hyperspace portal opened like a tear in reality itself, and through it came the U.S. Vengeance. The massive battleship emerged from hyperspace with the grace of a hunting predator. Its dark hull seemed to absorb the light around it, making it look like a piece of the void itself had taken shape. Weapon turrets dotted its surface like deadly flowers, and its engines glowed with barely contained power. The Vengeance was over 1 kilometer long, making it larger than most of the ships in the gathered fleets. Its design was unlike anything the aliens had seen before, angular and aggressive, built for war rather than exploration. "What is that thing?" Kex Thule demanded. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Morrison watched the alien fleets through the main view screen. He could see ships scrambling to get into defensive positions, their crews clearly panicked by the unexpected arrival. "They look surprised," Commander Walsh observed, standing beside Morrison's command chair. "Good," Morrison replied. Dr. Brooks, what are you reading from their communications? Amy Brooks stood at the communication station, her hands dancing over the controls as she monitored dozens of alien channels at once. Panic, mostly. The Zephyrians are demanding to know why we brought a warship. The Corvins are powering up there. Weapons. And the hive ships are. Well, they're humming louder. Morrison nodded. Everything was going according to plan. Open a channel to the station. Channel open, sir. Morrison straightened in his chair and smiled. It was a pleasant, friendly smile that didn't reach his eyes. Galactic Council Station. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Vengeance. We are here for the scheduled diplomatic meeting, requesting permission to dock. A response came back immediately, and it was clearly not what the aliens had been expecting to say. Human vessel, you are instructed to send a shuttle. Explain your violation of Council protocols. Morrison's smile lightened slightly. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The Council requested representatives from Earth. We are those representatives. This is simply how we travel to important meetings. Dr. Brooks leaned over to Morrison and whispered, 14 different species just started emergency military conferences. I think we got their attention. On the station, Admiral, Kexthal was having a very different conversation. A battleship, he snarled at his communication officer. They sent a battleship to a diplomatic meeting. Sir, what are your orders? The officer asked. Kexthal stared at the human ship through the observation window. The Vengeance hung in space. Like a sleeping giant, its weapons pointed at nothing in particular, but somehow still managing to look threatening. Get me the Council. We need to discuss this ... development. Back on the Vengeance, Morrison was enjoying himself. Station control, we're still waiting for docking permission. Should we just find an empty berth ourselves? Negative. Do not approach. The station without clearance. Of course not, Morrison replied smoothly. We're very respectful of local customs. We'll wait right here. Commander Walsh checked his tactical display. Sir, we have weapon locks from at least 6 different ships. They're not exactly rolling out the welcome mat. Let them lock on, Morrison said. Dr. Brooks, are you getting good readings on their ships? Oh, yes, Amy replied with satisfaction. Our sensors are far more advanced than they realize. We now know more about their fleet capabilities than they know about ours. The minutes ticked by. The alien fleets maintained their positions, trying to look threatening while clearly uncertain about what to do. The Vengeance simply waited, its massive bulk a reminder that humanity had not come to this meeting as supplicants. Finally, the station's communication system crackled back to life. Human vessel, you are cleared to dock at berth 7. Be advised that any aggressive action will result in immediate retaliation. Morrison chuckled. Understood, station control. We'll be on our best behavior. As the Vengeance began its approach to the station, Amy Brooks watched the alien communication channels with growing amusement. Captain, they're all asking the same question. How did a primitive species like humanity build a ship this advanced? What should we tell them? Walsh asked. Morrison stood up from his command chair and straightened his uniform. Tell them the truth. We're very good at making things that work. The Vengeance settled into its berth with the gentle precision of a master pilot. The station's docking arms extended to secure the massive ship, though they barely reached around its hull. Through the observation windows, aliens from a dozen different species stared at the human battleship with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed fear. Well, Morrison said, looking around at his crew, I think we've made an impression. Dr. Brooks, are you ready to attend a diplomatic meeting? Amy Brooks smiled and picked up her datapad. Captain, I've never been more ready for anything in my life. The Galactic Council had been expecting a small shuttle with nervous humans asking for mercy. Instead, They got Earth's most powerful battleship and a crew that clearly knew exactly what they were doing. The meeting was going to be very interesting indeed. The Galactic Council Chamber was a vast circular room with seats arranged in tiers around a central speaking area. Representatives from 47 different species filled the chamber, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. At the highest tier sat the Zephyrian delegation, their blue skin gleaming under the chamber's lights. Captain Morrison walked into the chamber flanked by Dr. Brooks and Commander Walsh. The three humans moved with quiet confidence, their dark uniforms standing out against the colorful alien clothing around them. Morrison had chosen to wear his dress uniform, dark blue with silver trim and the insignia of Earth's fleet clearly visible. A murmur ran through the chamber as the humans took their assigned seats in the lower tier. Morrison noticed that they had been placed in the section usually reserved for minor species, those with little voice in council decisions. "The council will come to order," announced High Counselor Vextar, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We are here to address the recent aggressive actions of the species known as humans." Morrison stood up smoothly. "Point of order, High Counselor." The chamber fell silent. Vextar's forearms tensed with visible irritation. "You have not been given permission to speak, human. According to council rules, any accused species has the right to present their case before formal charges are made," Morrison replied calmly. Dr. Brooks had spent weeks studying the council's procedures, and Morrison had memorized every relevant rule. Vextar's silver eyes narrowed. "Very well. State your case quickly." Morrison smiled and activated a holographic projector. Images began to appear in the center of the chamber, star charts, ship recordings, and detailed sensor data. "Thank you, High Counselor. I'd like to begin by showing the Council some interesting information we've gathered over the past 6 months." The first image showed a human colony ship under attack. The vessel was clearly marked with Earth's insignia, and it was being fired upon by ships bearing Zephyrian markings. "This is the colony ship New Hope," Morrison said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "It was attacked while carrying families to establish a new settlement in the Kepler 186 system. 17 people died in this attack." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. Admiral Kexthul leaned forward in his seat, his blue face darkening with anger. "The next image shows the merchant vessel Portland," Morrison continued. "Attacked while carrying medical supplies to our colony on Proxima Centauri B. The crew was taken prisoner, and we haven't seen them since." More images followed. Ships destroyed, colonies raided, and human civilians killed or captured. Each image was accompanied by detailed sensor data showing which species had carried out the attacks. "Over the past 6 months," Morrison said, "human vessels have been attacked 43 times. Our colonies have been raided 17 times. Over 300 of our people have been killed or captured." Dr. Brooks stood up beside Morrison. "We have complete sensor records, communication intercepts, and even some testimony from survivors. All of this data has been verified by our best scientists." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives from various species began shouting at each other, some demanding explanations while others claimed the evidence was fake. "Silence!" Vextar roared, and the chamber grudgingly quieted. "This evidence proves nothing. Humans are known liars and could have fabricated these recordings." Morrison's smile never wavered. "I was hoping you'd say that, High Counselor. Commander Walsh?" Commander Walsh activated another holographic display. This one showed the current positions of every ship in the gathered fleets, along with detailed specifications of their weapons, shields, and defensive capabilities. "This is what we've learned about your fleets just since arriving here," Walsh said calmly. "The Zephyrian Third Fleet has been operating in human space for the past 4 months. The Corvin battle group near Vega has been intercepting our supply ships, and the Hive Collective has been testing our border defenses with stealth scouts. The chamber fell dead silent. The information Walsh was displaying was supposed to be classified, secret fleet movements, and positions that no outsider should know. "How did you obtain this information?" demanded Admiral Kexthu, rising from his seat. "We've been watching," Morrison replied simply. "Earth may be new to galactic politics, but we're very good at gathering intelligence." Dr. Brooks stepped forward. "We know about the secret meetings between the Zephyrian Empire and the Corvan Republic. We know about the plans to divide human space between your species. We even know about the bounties you've placed on human prisoners." The alien representatives began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. Several species looked genuinely surprised by the revelations, while others appeared angry at being caught. "You accuse us of aggression," Morrison continued, "but the evidence shows that you've been attacking our people for months. The question is, what do you plan to do about it?" Vextar's four arms spread wide in a gesture of dismissal. "Even if these accusations were true, what could a primitive species like humanity do about it? You have no real military power. You have no allies. You are alone in a hostile galaxy." Morrison's smile turned cold. "Are we?" He activated one more holographic display. This one showed the technical specifications of the UE's Vengeance, its weapons, shields, and defensive systems. The numbers that appeared made several alien representatives gasp out loud. "This is our ship," Morrison said. "One ship. We have 47 more just like it, and they're all staffed by people who don't appreciate being attacked." Commander Walsh added, "Our weapons technology is approximately 50 years ahead of anything currently used by Council species. Our shields can withstand direct hits from your most powerful weapons, and our sensors can track your ships from 3 star systems away." The chamber was completely silent now. Even Vextar seemed to have lost his voice. Dr. Brooks looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. "Earth doesn't want war. We want peace, trade, and mutual cooperation, but we will not be bullied or terrorized by anyone." "You're bluffing," Kexthul said, but his voice lacked conviction. Morrison shrugged. "There's only one way to find out, Admiral, but I'd recommend thinking carefully before you test us." High Counselor Vextar stood up, his silver eyes blazing with fury. "The Council will recess for deliberation. When we return, we will decide what action to take regarding these accusations." As the aliens filed out of the chamber, Morrison turned to his companions. "How do you think that went?" Dr. Brooks was studying her datapad, monitoring alien communications. 12 species are demanding explanations from the Zephyrians. 6 more are asking about trade agreements with Earth. And the Corvan Republic just recalled their battle group from Vega. "What about the Zephyrians?" Walsh asked. Amy's expression grew serious. "They're not backing down. In fact, they're getting angrier. I think they're going to try something stupid." Morrison nodded. "Then we'd better be ready for them." Outside the chamber, Admiral Kexthul was having a very different conversation with his subordinates. "Those humans think they can embarrass the Zephyrian Empire with their lies and tricks. They're about to learn what happens to species that don't show proper respect." "Sir, their ship does appear to be quite advanced," one of his officers said. Nervously, "One ship," Kexthul snarled. "We have 3 battle cruisers. That should be more than enough to deal with primitive humans." The recess was about to end very badly for someone. The only question was who. The alarm klaxon echoed through the Vengeance's corridors as Captain Morrison rushed to the bridge. The recess had ended 20 minutes ago, but instead of returning to the council chamber, he had received an urgent message from his ship. "Report," Morrison ordered as he settled into his command chair. 3 Zephyrian battle cruisers have broken formation and are approaching our position. Commander Walsh announced from the tactical station. They've powered up weapons and are demanding our immediate surrender. Morrison looked at the main screen, where the 3 alien ships were clearly visible. Each one was about half the size of the Vengeance, but their sleek blue hulls bristled with weapon ports. They moved in perfect formation, like predators circling their prey. "Have they made any demands?" Morrison asked. "Yes, sir," the communication officer replied. "Admiral Kexthil is ordering us to power down our weapons and prepare to be boarded. He says we're under arrest for threatening the Galactic Council." Morrison almost laughed. Threatening the Council? By telling them the truth? Dr. Brooks arrived on the bridge, slightly out of breath from running through the corridors. "Captain, the Council session has been suspended. Most of the representatives are watching this confrontation from the observation decks." "Good," Morrison said. "Then they'll get to see what happens when someone tries to bully Earth." The lead Zephyrian ship, Admiral Kexthil's flagship, moved closer to the Vengeance. Its weapons were now clearly targeting the human battleship, and its blue hull gleamed with the energy of charged particle beams. "Human vessel," Kexthul's voice came over the communication system. "You have 30 seconds to surrender before we open fire." Morrison stood up and straightened his uniform. "Open a channel to all ships in the area, including the station." "Channel open, sir." Morrison's voice was calm and professional. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Vengeance. We are here on a peaceful diplomatic mission. Any attack on our vessel will be considered an act of war against humanity." Kexthul's response was immediate and filled with contempt. "Humans do not have the power to wage war against the Zephyrian Empire. Surrender now or face the consequences." 15 seconds, Morrison said to his crew. "All hands, prepare for combat." The Vengeance's crew moved with practiced efficiency. Weapon systems came online, shields reached full power, and point defense turrets swiveled to track incoming threats. The ship's dark hull seemed to come alive as energy patterns danced across its surface. 10 seconds, Walsh reported. Morrison sat back down in his command chair. "Dr. Brooks, are you recording this?" "Every second of it," Amy replied. "The whole galaxy is about to see what happens when someone picks a fight with Earth." "Time's up," Kexthul announced. "All ships open. Fire." The 3 Zephyrian cruisers unleashed everything they had. Particle beams lanced across space, followed by volleys of plasma missiles and energy torpedoes. The space around the Vengeance lit up like a deadly fireworks display. The human battleship's shields absorbed the incoming fire without even flickering. The energy weapons that should have torn through the Vengeance's hull simply disappeared into the ship's defensive barriers like raindrops hitting a lake. "Shields holding at 98%, Walsh reported calmly. Morrison nodded. "Return fire. Target their weapon systems first." The Vengeance's response was swift and devastating. Twin plasma cannons emerged from hidden ports in the ship's hull, their barrels glowing with barely contained energy. When they fired, the beams tore through space faster than the alien ships could react. The first blast hit the lead Zephyrian cruiser's main weapon array, vaporizing it in a burst of superheated metal. The second beam struck the ship's port side, carving a deep groove in its hull that exposed the internal structure. "Direct hit," Walsh announced. "Their main weapons are offline." The other 2 Zephyrian ships fired again, concentrating their attack on a single point on the Vengeance's hull. The combined firepower of both vessels struck the human battleship's shields with the force of a small star. The shields held. Shields down to 95%, Walsh reported. Morrison almost smiled. The aliens were throwing everything they had at his ship, and it was barely scratching the paint. "Target the second ship. Take out their engines." The Vengeance's plasma cannons swiveled with mechanical precision. 2 more beams lanced out, striking the second Zephyrian cruiser's engine section. The alien ship's blue hull cracked and split, venting atmosphere and energy into space. "Second ship is dead in the water," Walsh announced. "They're losing power and atmosphere." Admiral Kexthul's voice came over the communication system, no longer filled with confidence. "Impossible. Our weapons should have destroyed you." Morrison activated the ship's external speakers. "Admiral, your weapons are about 50 years out of date. Would you like to see what modern Earth technology can do?" Without waiting for an answer, Morrison ordered, "Target the third ship, full power." The Vengeance's main gun emerged from the ship's prow, a massive weapon that had never been used in actual combat. Energy began to build in the weapon's focusing chamber, creating a glow that was visible through the ship's hull. "Warning to all vessels," Morrison announced. "Clear the firing line immediately." The third Zephyrian ship tried to flee, its engines pushing it away from the human battleship as fast as possible. But it was too late. The Vengeance's main gun fired with a sound like thunder, sending a beam of pure energy across the space between the two ships. The beam struck the fleeing cruiser dead center, and the alien ship simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing but expanding gases and debris. Complete silence filled the silence. Communication channels. Morrison stood up and looked at the tactical display. One Zephyrian ship was crippled and venting atmosphere. Another was completely destroyed. The third was badly damaged, but still functional. "This is Captain Morrison," he announced to all ships in the area. "As I said, we are here on a peaceful, diplomatic mission. However, Earth will defend itself when attacked. Any other species that wishes to test our resolve is welcome to try." No one responded. Commander Walsh checked his instruments. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Zephyrian ships. They're requesting permission to withdraw." Morrison nodded. "Permission granted. Tell them to collect their survivors and return to their own space." Dr. Brooks was monitoring the communication channels from various species throughout the fleet. "Captain, I'm reading reactions from every ship in the area. The general consensus seems to be shock and disbelief." "What about the Council?" Morrison asked. "They're requesting an immediate meeting," Amy replied. "I think they want to discuss new terms for our membership." Morrison looked at the main screen, where the wreckage of the destroyed Zephyrian ship was slowly expanding into space. He felt no satisfaction in the destruction, only a grim certainty that the galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity. The Council will be happy to meet with them," he said. "But this time we'll be discussing terms as equals." The test was over. Earth had passed with flying colors. The Galactic Council chamber looked very different when Captain Morrison entered it for the second time. The representatives, who had been dismissive and condescending before, now watched him with expressions ranging from respect to barely concealed fear. The seats that had been arranged to minimize humanity's importance had been quietly moved to a more prominent position. High Counselor Vextar still sat in his elevated position, but his four arms no longer moved with arrogant confidence. His silver eyes followed Morrison's every movement as the human captain took his seat alongside Dr. Brooks and Commander Walsh. "The Council recognizes Captain Morrison of Earth," Vextar announced, his voice notably more formal than before. Morrison stood, his uniform still perfectly pressed despite the recent battle. "Thank you, High Counselor. I believe we have some matters to discuss." "Indeed," Vextar replied. "The Council has reviewed the recent confrontation and wishes to address several important issues." Around the chamber, representatives from dozens of species leaned forward in their seats. The destruction of a Zephyrian battlecruiser had sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Species that had considered humans to be primitive savages were now reconsidering their positions. First, Vexstar continued. The Council wishes to formally apologize for the unauthorized attack on your vessel. Admiral Kexthul acted without Council approval, and his actions do not represent the will of this body. Morrison nodded politely. Apology accepted, High Counselor. Though I should mention that Admiral Kexthul's ship was recording and broadcasting during the entire incident. The attack was clearly premeditated. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The recordings of the battle had been analyzed by military experts throughout the galaxy, and the conclusions were disturbing. Earth's technology was far more advanced than anyone had suspected. Dr. Brooks activated her datapad and stood up. The Council should also know that our intelligence networks have been monitoring similar activities by other species. We have evidence of at least 12 different groups planning attacks on human settlements. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs. If Earth could track secret military movements across the galaxy, what else did they know? However, Morrison continued, raising his voice to quiet the chamber, Earth is not interested in revenge or punishment. We want peace, trade, and mutual cooperation with all species. A representative from the Corvan Republic stood up. The massive, rock-like being spoke in a voice that sounded like grinding stone. Captain Morrison, the Corvan Republic would like to discuss a trade agreement with Earth. We have raw materials that your people might find useful. Morrison smiled. We'd be happy to discuss that, Representative Foxcar. Another representative rose, this one from the Altarian Federation. Earth's defensive technology is clearly superior to anything we've seen. Would your people be interested in sharing this technology? We might consider limited technology exchanges, Morrison replied carefully. But Earth's defensive systems will remain exclusively human. The questions came faster now. Species that had ignored humanity were suddenly very interested in establishing diplomatic relations, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, and cultural exchanges were all discussed in rapid succession. Through it all, the Zephyrian delegation remained silent. Their empire's reputation for invincibility had been shattered in a matter of minutes, and they were clearly trying to figure out how to respond. Finally, High Counselor Vexstar called for order. The Council must now vote on humanity's status within our organization. The original proposal was for limited membership with restricted voting rights. He paused, looking around the chamber. However, given recent developments, I believe a new proposal is in order. Commander Walsh leaned over to Morrison and whispered, 12 species have already sent private messages asking for bilateral meetings. I think your demonstration was effective. Morrison nodded, but kept his attention on Vexstar. The Council hereby offers Earth full membership status, Vexstar announced, with complete voting rights and all privileges accorded to major galactic powers. The chamber erupted in applause. Many representatives stood and clapped, their various forms of approval creating a cacophony of sound. Morrison noticed that not everyone was celebrating. Several species, including the Zephyrians, remained seated and silent. On behalf of Earth, Morrison said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber, I accept this offer. However, I want to make something clear to everyone here. The chamber fell silent again. Earth desires peaceful relations with all species, Morrison continued. We want to trade, to learn from each other, and to build a better future for everyone. But we will not be intimidated, threatened, or attacked. He looked directly at the Zephyrian delegation. Any species that chooses to target human civilians or attack our settlements will face the full response of Earth's military. We have 47 ships like the Vengeance, and we're building more every day. The message was clear. Earth was no longer a minor species to be bullied. They were a major power, and they intended to act like one. Dr. Brooks stood up beside Morrison. Earth will be establishing a permanent embassy at this station. We'll also be posting diplomatic missions to any world that requests them. Additionally, Morrison added, we'll be sharing our star charts and navigation data with the Council.